Good morning and good evening, wherever you are in the world. I was just talking to Harrison actually. He's heading down to Hong Kong to meet with a global company that does a lot of top end solar work. And we were just talking about, how to present a solar rocker in comparison to basically this company is currently using some pressure washing type robots and stuff like that for the cleaning of solar panels. All of their solar panels have got ARC, which is the anti-reflective coating. So if you see a blue tinge on a panel, I don't even know. Maybe you can see on these glasses. These glasses also have a blue tinge to them, right? But that's basically an anti-reflective coating. Boo, Martin Byrne. Gotcha. Yeah. Yes, I'm aging, a little bit, a bit of grey. But anyway, so here goes. So what I said to Harrison, look, rather than me going over and over again, I'll jump on Facebook Live. It's definitely valuable information that are useful to other people, and to understand what our solar rocker does in comparison to other products that are on the market. And then he's going to watch this again and again as much as he needs to be able to get the points. Okay, so I'm going to do my very best to do it with words. So let's think about the beginning. The beginning is what are we trying to do when we clean glass, right? Whether it's a solar panel or Windows. The same logic, by the way, applies to Windows. So the first step is to identify that we have debris. Let's call it debris. Could be clay dust, could be dirt, could be lichens, could be sap. It could be anything, right? That's on solar panels. And we want to get that off the glass surface, and we want to get it into suspension. So now we have dirty water on the panel, and then we want to get the dirty water off the panel, so that we leave the panel clean. And each one of those debris categories, depending on where you are in the world, has a difficulty to remove. If it's just dust, then it's quite easy, and pretty much you could use a broom style brush, like a tucker brush or something like that. But some of the other debris that's on panels is actually quite difficult to remove, and but the intention is that when you have an expensive solar panel that has an ARC coating, then you have this difficulty that it's a nano coating, right? And you can damage it. The reason why they put an ARC coating on a solar panel is to get about 4% increase in solar gain. So they get basically a 4% increase in the amount of sun energy transferred to the wafer or to the vacuum tube if it's a solar thermal system, a water system, right? So you don't want to damage that. And then on a PV system, if you damage the ARC in a certain spot, then you basically have a 4% hotter wafer compared to the rest of the panel, and then that throws the whole panel out, and ultimately the panel can fail due to a hot spot. Okay, so there's quite a lot of responsibility being a solar panel cleaner, and a lot of the guys that clean solar panels may not be aware of the consequences of that. Now, if you're cleaning solar panels on homes, as a rule, they're probably not going to be ARC coated. That 4% is not going to be significant to them compared to a commercial installation like a solar farm or the solar panels on top of a commercial building, preheating water for the hot water systems or programs like that. So the dealings with an ARC are not relevant if there is no ARC. You're just dealing with glass, and then you can treat it the same as a window. So then you could bring out a steel wool or our cheese grater, like we call that stainless steel mesh. That one. You can bring that out on a normal solar panel, and there's no issue. But the whole idea is to get it as fast as possible, right? Because actually, the return on investment of cleaning a solar panel can only be measured in terms of the solar gain. So when we cleaned the solar panels on top of our factory in China, we're on the second floor. The ground floor tenant was a sign maker. So what they had was a lot of plastic signs. You can imagine they're all acrylic type plastics. And then they have these saws, and then the vacuum for the saw would suck out of the machine to save the worker, but it would push it out onto the roof as very, very fine dust. But it's just plastic. And then that would then, if the wind blew a certain way, that would land on the solar panels. So then we have this plastic cooked onto the solar panels. And we basically couldn't clean the solar panels when that factory was in operation. So we'd wait for them to stop for lunch. And then we'd go up and clean the solar panels for our building. So and that in that situation, we could get hold of the software, that was running the calculation of the solar gain, and we could see a 38% increase in solar gain from cleaning the panels. But they were really dirty. I mean, you could see them; they were kind of white on the surface. Now, if you can see white on the surface, then you're seeing the reflection of the sunlight back to your eyes. That's the sunlight that was meant to get to the black surface under the glass, right? So your solar gain is being reflected to you. So we don't. And that's a good way to explain it to a customer. If I can see the surface of your solar panel, it's reflecting the light for me to see it. Yeah, on the presupposition that most of the debris is a shade of white rather than a shade of black, if we wanted to put it that way, because black absorbs light, white reflects light. Yeah. So, so if we want to get efficient, now when you get to a solar farm, how many seconds do we want to clean a solar panel? And then when you get to a solar farm, the resource that may not be as accessible as you want is electricity, although there's electricity there from the solar panels, of course, but not a lot of these roller systems like the Queen and things like that. They run with 24 volt. And we're actually developing something like this as well, but we're trying to master the cleverness of it, and also reduce the negatives of it. But there's that limitation that you have to have a source of stored electricity as compared to solar, um, and low voltage, and then you also need water. Now, if you're trying to protect the ARC by not touching the panel, so you're basically going to use pressure to spray high pressure at the glass surface, the air and the way, same way as pressure washers work, but they disturb everything off the surface and then flush all that dirty water off the glass. That's a typical robot system that's available in the market to protect ARC. But what are they going to use? 3 gallons a minute, 12 liters a minute, 15 liters a minute, something like that. And then they can't work crazy fast, yeah, because they actually have to dig. So I suppose the higher the volume of the water, the faster they can work. And then if it's on a block of land, then somebody's got to truck in the water that they're going to clean the solar panels with, then that water has a cost, right? If they can dig it up with a well, then they're going to have aquifer water, which is going to have high TDS, which is going to leave spots, right? So they basically need to be able to have a low volume of water as a part of the efficiency coefficient. How much money are they spending on the cost to clean the panel compared to what is the solar gain from that panel? So for the solar panel farm cleaners that we've spoken to, they're trying to get down to 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds a panel, pretty much no more. And that's what basically drove us to develop the solar rocker as a brush, right? Is to get down to below 6 seconds a panel. So a typical solar panel is 39 inches wide. Solar rocker is 22 inches wide. So basically the operator can clean the left side of the panel. He can clean, or she can clean the right side of the panel, and that will overlap in the middle. So there's no middle area to clean. And we apply the same logic with radial brush for 14 inch and 18 inch. Why would you use an 18 inch on a window? Well, if it's over half the width of your window, then instead of doing 3 sets of actions, the left, the right, and the middle, you would do 2 sets of action, the left and the right. And so you'd be basically 33% less time, less effort, less calories, less everything, right? So it's the same logic applied to solar panels. You want a brush that's over half the width of the panel. We used to make one the width of the panel, but it was really difficult for the operator to work because it was that much heavier, right? So it became a negative. in that sense. So, so now we want to say, okay, we want to clean the left side of the panel and we want to clean the right side of the panel. Now, when we clean glass, the glass is vertical, so we put the jets on top of the glass and gravity pulls the dirt off the glass. But if you think about it, as a window cleaner, you know, the saying, you know, pushing it uphill. You know, as window cleaners, we push dirt uphill and then we ask your gravity to pull it down. And then we push it uphill and then we ask gravity to pull it down. Now, fortunately for us, well, if you look at the radial design, we don't let the water fall down through the brush. The water always runs across the top of the brush. The top bristles of a radial brush are not pervious, right? So there's basically no water goes through. It's a blade. And then all the water runs to one side. So you always angle the brush slightly and then the water will run off to one side and flush everything completely. So the last thing on the glass is definitely pure water. But when you go from a vertical surface to a pitched surface, then you no longer have the benefit of gravity working at the same level. And depending on where you are, if you're at the equator, then the pitch of a solar panel is flat. And then the further away, the further north or the further south you get, the higher the pitch gets, right? So normally you don't see a pitch more than 45 degrees for the maximum solar gain. But so now you think, okay, you've got the vectors of force. Gravity is pulling down. You've got dirt in suspension. You've got water running this way. Gravity is pulling it down that much. It's got to run with that velocity, you know, that far. And your dirt is heavier than the water, so the dirt is always going to go to the bottom of your rinse water. So now your dirt is going to, you know, a bit like the principle of gold panning. You know, the heavy stuff is going to go to the bottom. So you push the dirty water up, and then you pull your brush down and you wait for it to come down, and you push the dirty water up. And okay, you can push the dirty water off the top of the panel, but if that might be convenient if it's just a single panel and you're standing in front of it, but because you've really got to stop the brush from going over the top of the panel and then just dropping, you know, over the top of the panel. Then you've got to pick it up and then you've got to start again. So there's all those issues of the actual dynamics of, you know, how much you can see, how hard you have to push, how long is that array of panels. You know, you could have 6 panels high on an array, and you could be using a really long pole and cleaning the very top like that. So pushing the water over the top of the panel is not necessarily ideal. It's feasible and possible in certain, like, you know, horses for courses. I'm not trying to put down absolutes. I'm trying to put down the principles, and then you go from job to job and you apply the principles. So to give us the maximum efficiency, we're going to clean half the panel at a time. That's already step one. And then we're going to think about, okay, we need that dirty water. So we're gonna disturb the debris into suspension, right? So now it's in the water, and then we're going to try and get that water to come off. Now the water should come off the bottom of the panel is easier. And so what we want to get to the top of the panel, and then if you're clever, you can just flick the brush up just a little bit, let whatever water's above the brush get underneath the brush, and then we pull it down. As we pull it down, A, we're still agitating, and B, we have the benefit of us using the bottom blade of the brush, remembering that the bottom blade of a brush is also not allowing the water to go up. It is actually a blade. So it turbulates the water, disturbs the water, keeps all the water, keeps all the dirt, keeps it all in suspension, and is agitating at the same time. And you pull all the dirty water off the panel, off the bottom of the panel. Now, what we learned from that, we applied to G-Force with Byron Guest, Modman. He mastered it, but the principle is the same. And I don't need to say but, and the principle is the same, right? So when Byron gets to a really dirty, dusty window, he spins the G-Force around so the jets are on the bottom. And the first thing he does is pull down the brush, pulls the G-Force down the window and cleans the window that way. Now all of that dust and dirt has been pulled off because it was under the G-Force. Then he turns the pole 180 degrees, turns the G-Force 180 degrees. Now he's got the pure water on top, and then he just does the typical, you know, window cleaning action of having jets on top and rinsing off. So it's the same logic is that we're going to use the water under the brush. So a solar rocker has 26 jets under the brush, 8 jets above the brush. We need the water as a surfactant, and it also helps with the agitation, of course. And so now we've got this action. So that's the science of what we're doing. We're going to disturb everything into solution, then we're going to pull the dirty water off the brush. The more dirt we can pull off with a downstroke, the less number of strokes we need to do. If you're going to push it uphill and then wait for it to come down, and then push it uphill and wait for it to come down, and push it uphill and wait for it to come down, then you're not going to get to that 3 to 6 seconds per panel, right? We want to be 1.5 to 2 seconds per side of a panel, and you're going to be 4 to 6 seconds per panel. Now, that is the efficiency of time. When we now look at the resource called water, because that's the second cost of cleaning a solar panel on a solar farm, right? And so we are going to have maybe a pressure washer style machine is going to want to consume 12 to 15 liters a minute, and solar rocker is recommended at 3 liters a minute, or 3/4 of a gallon per minute. Now, 1 minute is 60 seconds. So if we use, for example, just to put this into comparison, this is a soda water bottle. This is 325 milliliters. Let's say it's 300, right? 300 milliliters. So there would be 10 of these in 3 liters, which means there would be 13 of them in 4 liters. So there'll be about 12 of these in a gallon, just to put it into perspective, right? 12 of these in a gallon, right? But I'm going to talk in metric just very briefly. So, because for Harrison, our customer is from Austria, right? Global business, but from Austria. And so if you've got 3 liters, 3/4 of a gallon per minute, and you can clean a panel, let's say in 6 seconds, so you can clean 10 panels in a minute. So 1/10 of 3 liters is 300 milliliters, this much water. That's the amount of water it takes to clean a solar panel with solar rocker, which has a high flow rate. It has a high flow rate for a reason, because we need to be able to get everything off. The more water you've got, the faster you can clean. There's no doubt about that. You will use a higher, no, I should say it this way. The higher the flow rate you use, without being ridiculous, the higher the flow rate you use, the faster you can clean, the less time you will use, and therefore the lower the total volume of water you will require to achieve the task. In other words, the variation in flow rate is not proportional to the variation in time. Yeah, the variation in time is multiples of the variation of flow rate. If you go from 2 liters a minute to 3 liters a minute on a solar panel, you may work twice as fast, right? Even though you use 50% more flow rate. Yeah, so therefore you'll use less water volume. And that's the whole Reach It story, the whole radial story, the whole everything about everything which we've developed is all that simple principle. Use a higher flow rate, use much less time, you will use less water volume, right? So the flow rate is critical to your personal efficiency and your use of water efficiency. So now you can clean a solar panel with 300 mils of or 1/10 of a gallon, yeah, or 1/12 of a gallon, something like that, yeah, with that principle. So there's a presupposition in there that I have made, and that is that within 3 seconds, 2 to 3 seconds, we can actually disturb what is cooked onto the solar panel off the solar panel. And put it into suspension so that we can get it off the glass, right? So, and this is highly technical because I'm recording this for Harrison and sharing it with you guys, right? But Harrison will be talking to an engineer. This is engineering talk. If you talk in true science, true maths, true physics, you will an engineer will understand and then say, okay, I understand the cost benefit analysis of using a solar rocker over a pressure washing automatic machine, over using a Queen rotating brush or something like this. Some of the brushes, you can see brushes that are powered by the amount of water they're using. Again, that water has a cost. And if the cost of water and the cost of labor exceeds the value of the solar gain, which is the selling of the electricity from a PV panel, the selling of that electricity back to the grid, or the use of that electricity in the factory, right? Or the value of the preheating of water in a boiler environment. I don't know if most people maybe can't relate to that. But basically, it's the value of the solar gain has to be compared to the cost of the panel cleaning, and the return on investment, as such. So it should be profitable to clean panels. It's basically it. Otherwise, they're not going to clean panels, or they'll clean them less often. So 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 the logic then is, we have to make sure that we can actually disturb the debris fast off the panel. Now, if the panel is treated with ARC, then that treatment you can't use loads of bristles or cheese grater with stainless steel mesh or stainless steel wool or bronze wool, or you can't even non-scratch pad will scratch a treated surface, and wear it down, right? And so you start to lose that 4% benefit, and you also possibly create a hotspot which will ultimately make the panel fail, which could ultimately reflect on the farm, having ripple effect failures. So we developed the silicon bristle. Silicon is, if you put anything silicon against glass, it won't move. It'll just absolutely grip to the glass. So you use water underneath it to give it the surfactant. The same principle is why we put detergent under a squeegee, right? So that the squeegee can run on the glass. So the same principle under silicon, you can put water. Water will reduce the friction coefficient of the silicon, and the silicon is super soft, right? It's not aggressive at all. So for the ARC treated panels, we have a silicon bristle brush. But if you're cleaning homes, you might find there's lichens and stuff like that, which are basically plants that stick to the glass, or there's sap because there are trees nearby or something like that. Then presuming that home doesn't have ARC on the panel, then you can start to go to the more aggressive scrubs, the same way as we do with windows, right? So the radial rocker, the solar rocker, same principles, same scrubs are available. However, solar rocker comes in the kit with silicon. Radial rocker doesn't, because we have green rubber, which basically does a lot of the job of the silicon rubber. Has a high friction coefficient. And that's, by the way, the people who love Boar's Hair. I mean, Boar's Hair is basically a friction coefficient, a higher friction coefficient than a nylon bristle. That, when you wet the hair, after 3 minutes, the hair becomes soft, and then it's the sides of the bristles, like a paintbrush, right? Exactly the same as a paintbrush, right? It's the sides of the bristles which is doing the cleaning, and the sides of the bristles they're not perfectly round like an extruded bristle of nylon. So they've got little hairs on them and irregular bits, and then those irregular bits are your grab coefficient, like microfiber. Microfiber works on the same basis. Okay. Hey, Bobby. Oh, Robbie. Got my glasses on. Look good. Okay, so that's our logic. We want to use the right scrub to hopefully get all the debris off the glass in 2 strokes, same as windows, right? That's the ideal. If it's just dust, it could be 1 stroke up, 1 stroke down. And we don't want to push the water off the top of the panel, because there's a risk you could push your brush over the top of the panel. So what we want to do is we want to pull the water down the panel, which means we need most of the water under the brush. We're going to pull it down faster than gravity would have pulled it. That means that all the dirt stays turbulated. It doesn't drop to the bottom of the water running down the panel, so it doesn't stick to the panel, so you don't end up with the same risk of the dirt staying on the panel when the water beads evaporate. Okay, and then choosing the right scrub that you can. But if you have ARC, the only scrub that we recommend is the silicon scrub. And then if you went over the panels with a silicon scrub, just twice, and completed that process, and then if necessary, you could go back and do a spot clean if the solar panels are in an environment where there's something more aggressively sticking to the panel, which is unlikely for a solar farm, likely for the roof of somebody's house. Okay, and then it's unlikely that a panel on the roof of somebody's house is ARC, right? Hopefully. Yes. Okay. See you, Martin. I'm pretty much done anyway. That was. I don't want to make it too long, otherwise Harrison won't never watch it. Right. And I've talked probably a chunk of time anyway. But there's a lot of science in it, and for those people who are interested in solar panel cleaning, then go to futureofcleaning.com. Go to the solar rocker. We're going to put some packages together. Pole and brush packages, but most of our customers are repeat customers that have already used rocker or something like that, and then they want the increased efficiency of solar rocker, because you also need to have a very rigid pole, and not all poles are rigid, so it's kind of like a it's a long explanation to say something. Well, you can buy our brush, but if your pole is flexible, the brush is heavy, right? So you need it to be heavy. Like somebody asked me the other day, does our 18-inch G-force work on a solar panel? You go, it's going to have agitation, but it's got no weight in it, right? And you really need weight, right, to get that downward pressure, right? And you don't want to be flexing the pole, pulling up here and pushing down there to try and create some force from your body to get downward pressure when you could just use a heavier brush that's got a little bit of pull with gravity. And depending on the angle of the pole, the effect of gravity on the brush when the pole is vertical is 0, and the effect of gravity when the pole is horizontal is maximum. The weight of the pole is sitting on the brush. So depending on that angle that your pole is at will determine how much of the weight of the pole is applied to the brush in a downward force. Okay, so if you like this, please share it. It's highly informative, and you can apply it to whatever tools you have now and compare, and then come back and have a look at Solar Rocker in futureofcleaning.com. Okay, and if you encourage me, I'll do more of these, right, from my lovely location in Phuket, Thailand. Okay, see you guys. Cheers.